In the hospital, my wife held my hand and whispered, "3 days left, then everything will be mine." And she gave me the sweetest smile. But right after that, I heard her step into the hallway and quietly call someone, saying, "The plan is ready." That's when I realized those 3 days weren't comfort at all. They were my deadline to disappear. So I played weak while my mind started building my counterattack. And if you want the next part of this story, where I turn the whole game around, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the twist. The alarm went off at 5:45 like it always did, and I rolled out of bed before it could wake my daughter. I moved through the house on muscle memory: coffee, lunch bag, keys, quiet steps, quiet breathing, quiet everything. That was my life in a sentence: quiet. Jayla was already awake, sitting cross-legged on her bed with her hair half done, scrolling on her phone with one hand and holding a brush with the other. "You're doing it again," I said. She smiled without looking up. "I'm multitasking, like you." I stood behind her and started working the brush through the knots the way her mom used to. That thought came so fast it stung. I didn't let it show. Jayla didn't need to carry that weight before school. Vanessa came into the doorway wearing one of my t-shirts like it belonged to her. She leaned against the frame, arms folded, watching us like she was evaluating a scene that didn't include her. "You're taking her again?" she asked. "I always do," I said. "Right, because you don't trust anybody." I kept my hands steady. Jayla's hair didn't need to feel my mood. Vanessa walked off, and I heard cabinet doors open harder than they needed to. The drive to school was normal. Jayla complained about a quiz. I told her she'd be fine. She asked if we could stop for donuts on Friday. I said yes without thinking. A yes like that was easier than explaining why I had to say no to everything else lately. At work, I stayed in my lane. Meetings, emails, calls. A quiet kind of leadership that kept problems from reaching the surface. People respected me there. They listened when I spoke. They didn't interrupt me or rewrite my words. By mid-afternoon, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. "Did you see the mail?" she texted. I didn't answer right away. I was on a call with a contractor, talking deadlines. The second buzz came before the call ended. "Malcolm, the insurance forms, don't ignore me." I stared at the screen longer than I should have. It wasn't the forms that bothered me, it was the tone. Like I was one of her employees, not her husband. When I got home, a stack of envelopes sat on the kitchen counter, already opened. My company's logo was visible on one of them. "Why did you open that?" I asked. Vanessa didn't look guilty. She never did. "Because you leave things everywhere," she said. "And because we're married. It's not a big deal." I picked up the letter. It was addressed to me, not to us. My name, my title, my life. "That's private," I said, keeping my voice low. She laughed like I'd told a joke. "Private?" she repeated. "In my house?" Jayla walked in behind me, backpack still on, and paused when she heard the edge in Vanessa's voice. I held up a hand without turning around. "Go wash up," I told my daughter. She hesitated, then disappeared down the hall. Vanessa took the pause as permission. "I need you to sign the insurance paperwork," she said. "It's just a formality. If something happens, I need to be able to handle things." "If something happens," I repeated. "Don't start," she snapped. "I'm trying to be responsible." I flipped through the pages. There were sections about beneficiaries, medical authorization, power of attorney, the kind of words that look harmless until they're used against you. "I'm not signing this tonight," I said. "I need to read it." Vanessa's face changed. Not angry at first, just tight. "You always do this," she said. "You act like I'm some stranger." "Reading isn't an accusation," I said. She stepped closer, lowering her voice like she wanted it to cut deeper. "You read everything. You trust nobody, not even your wife." Jayla's door creaked down the hallway. She was listening. My stomach sank. "Not in front of her," I said. That made Vanessa turn sharp. "Oh, so now you care about what she hears?" she said louder. "You don't care when you shut me down every time I ask for something." I didn't raise my voice. I couldn't. That was the rule I lived by. Keep the temperature low so the kid doesn't burn. "We'll talk later," I said. "No, we're talking now," she shot back. then reached for her phone and started dialing. "Who are you calling?" I asked. "My mother," she said, eyes locked on mine. "Since you don't know how to act like a husband, maybe she can explain it." I stood there, holding those papers, feeling the floor shift under something I thought was solid. Vanessa put the phone to her ear and walked toward the living room like she owned the whole house, like I was a guest who needed guidance. I set the forms down slowly, grabbed my keys, and walked out to the garage before she could trap me in another round of words. The air inside the car smelled like old coffee and my daughter's vanilla lotion. I sat there with both hands on the wheel, not even starting the engine yet. Anger sat in my chest, heavy and hot, but I swallowed it like I always did. Then I drove. No destination, just streets, turns, stop signs. The neighborhood passed like it didn't know my name. Somewhere in that quiet loop, it hit me. Silence wasn't keeping the peace anymore. It was making me smaller. When I pulled back into the driveway, Vanessa's mother's car was already there. Vanessa's mother didn't even bother knocking. She stepped into the kitchen like she was coming home, purse still on her shoulder, eyes scanning the counter, the sink, the stack of opened mail. Vanessa followed behind her with that same tight smile she wore whenever she wanted someone on her side. "Malcolm," her mother said, stretching my name like she was tasting it. "You can't keep treating my daughter like she's a stranger in her own home." I didn't answer right away. I stood at the edge of the living room, keys still in my hand, watching Jayla's bedroom door stay closed down the hall. "This isn't about feelings," I said. "She opened my work mail," Vanessa scoffed. "It was on the counter," she said. "Stop acting like I went digging." Her mother waved a hand like details didn't matter. "You're married," she said. "Everything you do affects her. If you're so worried about paperwork, then maybe you're hiding something." That word sat in the air. Hiding. Vanessa leaned in, voice soft but sharp. "See? Even my mom can tell something's off." I felt my jaw tighten. The old me would have snapped back. The older me, Jayla's father, kept his tone steady. "I'm not hiding anything," I said. "I'm reading before I sign. That's it." Her mother stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn at our wedding. "A real man doesn't make his wife beg for security," she said. "A real man takes care of his home." Something in my chest twitched. Not anger, something worse. A familiar pressure that didn't belong in an argument. Vanessa saw it and her eyes flickered, quick, like she'd noticed a crack. "Malcolm, sit down," she said, suddenly calm. "You're doing too much. You've been stressed. Just sit." I didn't sit. I tried to inhale and it came out short. My left arm went numb in a slow, creeping way that made me think of my father, the way he looked right before he hit the floor. Vanessa's mother backed up. "Oh my God," she said, like she couldn't believe the inconvenience. Vanessa grabbed her phone. "Jayla," she shouted, "come here." My daughter appeared in the hallway, eyes wide. "Call 911, Vanessa told her, then turned to me with both hands on my shoulders. "Breathe. Just breathe." It wasn't comfort, it was control. The ambulance ride felt like a blur of questions and sirens, and Vanessa's hand on my knee, squeezing too hard. At Texas Medical Center, they moved fast. Someone cut my shirt open. Someone asked about allergies. Someone stuck an IV in my arm while Vanessa answered questions like she'd memorized my life. "He's under a lot of stress," she said. "He forgets things sometimes." I wanted to correct her. My tongue wouldn't cooperate. Hours later, I drifted in and out, heavy like wet concrete. Voices floated in and out. My daughter's crying. Vanessa's voice, low and steady, telling her everything would be fine. The sound of a pen scratching paper. When I finally woke up, the room was quiet except for the steady beep from the monitor. My throat felt dry. My head ached like I'd been grinding my teeth in my sleep. Vanessa sat beside the bed, hair pulled back, face calm, like the whole thing had brought out her best side. "Hey," she whispered, and reached for my hand. Her fingers wrapped around mine, warm, familiar, almost convincing. She pressed my knuckles to her lips like she was praying. "You scared me," she said. I stared at her, tried to speak. My voice came out thin. "Where's Jayla?" "She's with my mom," Vanessa said quickly. "She's fine. You need to rest." She rubbed the back of my hand, slow circles, the way people do when they want you to stop thinking. Then she leaned closer, close enough that only I could hear. 3 days left, she murmured, soft like a secret. Then everything will be mine. For a second, I thought I'd misheard. Maybe it was the medication. Maybe it was my brain still foggy. But her smile didn't match a worried wife. It was small, controlled, almost pleased. My stomach turned cold. Vanessa kissed my forehead, stood up, and walked out of the room. I kept my eyes half closed, forcing myself to stay still. Her heels clicked down the hallway. She paused right outside my door, then her voice dropped into a whisper. "Yeah," she said into the phone. "The plan is ready." I didn't move. I didn't open my eyes. I just listened, counting my breaths, letting the words settle inside me like a weight I couldn't drop. The hallway went quiet again after Vanessa's call. A few minutes later, she came back into my room with the same calm face, like nothing had happened. "You're awake?" she asked. I forced a slow blink. "Just tired," I said. She nodded like she approved. Then she took my phone from the little tray table and slid it into her purse like it belonged there. "The doctor said you need rest," she told me. "No calls, no stress." I didn't reach for it. Not because I agreed, but because I was learning something in real time. She wasn't worried about my heart. She was worried about my voice. A nurse came in to adjust the IV line, and Vanessa stepped aside, chatting like a helpful spouse. The nurse smiled politely, did her job, and left. Vanessa sat again, scrolling through her own phone, then started reading emails out loud, like she was managing a household budget. "Your sister texted," she said. "She asked how you're doing." "Did you reply?" I asked. Vanessa's eyes stayed on her screen. "Of course," she said. "I told her you're stable. No need for people to panic." Stable. That word had always sounded good. That day, it felt like a lock clicking into place. When she stepped out to grab coffee, I waited until the door clicked shut. My hands shook a little as I slid mine under the blanket and checked the hospital band around my wrist, like it would remind me who I was. I wasn't a child. I wasn't confused. I wasn't imagining anything. I needed a way to move without her seeing it. A woman in scrubs passed by my open door, pushing a cart. She glanced in, then slowed when she saw I was awake. "You need something?" she asked. Her badge read, "Alicia Morgan, RN." "Water," I said, then I lowered my voice. "And can you help me with something private?" Alicia didn't change expression. She just stepped into the room like it was routine. "Sure," she said. "What do you need?" I swallowed. My throat felt dry, but the words came out steady. "I need copies of my chart," I told her. "Medication list, any forms that came in with my wife, everything." Alicia studied me for a second, not judging, assessing. "Has anyone told you no?" she asked. "They haven't given me a chance," I said. She nodded once. "Okay," she said. "I can request your records. You'll sign a release. It'll take some time." "I can sign," I said. "Just don't hand it to her." Alicia's mouth tightened, like she understood more than she was saying. "I'll keep it in the nurse station until you ask for it," she replied. "Anything else?" I hesitated, then said the truth. "She just told me something," I said. "Something that didn't sound like a wife talking." Alicia didn't press. She only said, "If you feel unsafe, tell me. We have procedures for that." She handed me a cup of water and walked out, and that simple respect, someone treating me like a grown man again, did something to my chest that no medication could. When Vanessa came back, she brought a smoothie like she was trying to play caregiver. She wiped my forehead with a napkin, adjusted my pillow, asked the nurse questions that didn't need asking. "What time is the cardiologist coming?" she asked loudly. "Will he be on the morning shift?" she added, like she was building a schedule. Alicia kept her answers short, professional. Vanessa smiled anyway, the kind of smile people use when they want you to forget they're calculating. Later that afternoon, Alicia returned with a manila envelope and set it on my tray. Vanessa was in the bathroom. The timing felt intentional. "These are copies of your chart summary," Alicia said. "Med list, shift log. There are also some forms that were brought in." My pulse bumped. I opened the envelope slowly, flipping pages like I was reading a report at work. Vitals, labs, medication administration record, names, times, signatures. Then I saw it. A form titled Durable Power of Attorney. My name typed at the top, my signature at the bottom. But it wasn't my handwriting. It looked close enough to fool a stranger. But I'd signed contracts for 2 decades. I knew my own pen strokes. This was clumsy. A practiced imitation, but still wrong. There was a notary stamp from an office in uptown Houston. I'd never stepped foot there. My mouth went dry again. Not from thirst this time. Vanessa came out of the bathroom, drying her hands. "What's that?" she asked casually. I slid the page back into the stack. "Just hospital stuff," I said. She walked over, peered at the papers, then shrugged. "Good," she said. They needed all that anyway. The way she said anyway made my skin crawl. That night, she took my phone again before I could ask. "I told Jayla you're resting," she said. "She gets upset when you talk too long." "Let me speak to my daughter," I said, still calm. Vanessa's face hardened for half a second, then softened into something fake. "Malcolm," she whispered, leaning closer. "You're not thinking straight. Don't embarrass yourself." Embarrass myself? Like asking for my child was shameful. She stepped out to speak with a nurse, and I watched her point toward my bed, her hands moving as she talked. When the nurse walked in afterward, the nurse didn't meet my eyes. "Your wife said you've been confused," she said carefully. "If you need help, just tell us, okay?" Vanessa's words were already turning into my reputation. I didn't argue with the nurse. I just nodded, let her think what she needed to think. Once she left, I reached into the manila envelope again and pulled out the POA form. I stared at the notary stamp until my eyes blurred. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a plan. Alicia came by near shift change. Vanessa had gone to the cafeteria. I held up the paper. "Can you make a copy?" I asked. Alicia glanced at it, then at me. "Yes," she said. "And keep it somewhere she can't touch," I added. "I have a locked drawer," Alicia replied. "Only charge nurses have access." My shoulders loosened a fraction. "Thank you," I said. She tucked the paper into her folder, then paused. "Do you have anyone outside the hospital you trust?" she asked. I thought of my brother first, out of habit, then stopped myself. I thought of my company's attorney, a man who cared about liability and paperwork, which meant he cared about facts. "Yes," I said. "One person." Alicia nodded. "Then contact him," she said, "before someone else speaks for you." Vanessa came back with a bag of chips and a bottle of water like we were on a road trip. "I got your favorite," she said. I took the water with my left hand so she wouldn't see the slight tremor in my right. When she turned away, I reached under my pillow where Alicia had slid my phone for a moment earlier. Screen dimmed, battery low. My fingers moved fast. One email. Short. No explanation. "If I go silent, check the POA." I hit send and slid the phone back before Vanessa turned around. She sat beside me, peeling open the chips. "You're going to be fine," she said, voice sweet again. I nodded, staring at the ceiling tiles. My body stayed in that bed. My mind started building a file. They moved me to a step-down unit before noon. Less noise, fewer wires, more freedom, at least on paper. I told the doctor I needed to go home for clothes and documents. Vanessa objected right away, said it wasn't necessary, said she could handle it. The doctor looked at her, then at me, and said someone would have to go with me. She didn't like that, but she agreed. The drive back felt short. Vanessa talked the whole way, filling space with updates I hadn't asked for. I watched the road and kept my answers light. When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked the same. Clean, quiet, still. Something about stepping inside felt off, like I'd arrived late to a place that had already been rearranged. I went straight to the small office near the kitchen. The desk drawers were half open. A folder sat on top, thick and bent from being handled too often. Estate insurance was written across the tab in black marker. That folder used to live in the bottom drawer, untouched unless I needed it. Pages were out of order, notes in the margins that weren't mine. A printed stock transfer agreement sat right on top, unsigned by me but ready, neat, final. Behind it were photos, grainy. Me at a downtown bar, cropped close, a woman's shoulder in frame. Old footage, repurposed. Enough to tell a story if someone wanted one told. Vanessa leaned against the doorway. "You signed," she said calmly. "You just don't remember. You weren't well." I didn't argue. I picked up the papers and set them back down, slow. "Think about Jayla," she added. "You want her believing her father cheated?" That landed harder than anything else. I looked at my hands instead. The same hands she'd held in the hospital. The same grip, same pressure. Nothing about this was about care. It was about control. We didn't stay long. I grabbed a bag, some clothes, a few files she hadn't touched yet. On the way back, I stared out the window while she talked again. Lighter now, like things were settled. At the hospital, I passed the copy of the folder to my attorney in the lobby without stopping. He nodded once. In the car afterward, I rested my head back and let the idea finish forming. Staying quiet wasn't protecting anyone anymore. The next morning, my company's general counsel called before I'd even finished the first cup of hospital coffee. His voice stayed polite, but the words came out careful, like he was walking through glass. "Malcolm, I need you to hear this from me," he said. "The board received an email late last night." "From who?" I asked. "Anonymous," he answered. Subject line was, "Not good." He didn't have to read it. I could already feel what it was. Vanessa hadn't been subtle. She'd been patient. "They titled it Malcolm Reed's Affair and Instability," he said. "They attached photos. They're claiming you've been reckless, compromised. They're requesting the board remove your signing authority until an internal review is done." The word authority hit me harder than the accusations. In my world, signing power meant trust. It meant you were still standing. "Are they suspending me?" I asked. "No," he said quickly. "Not yet. But they're freezing your financial approvals for now. Temporary. Procedure. Procedure." Another word that sounded clean while it did damage. When the call ended, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Sign and this ends." No name, no explanation, no punctuation besides the period at the end, like whoever wrote it had time and confidence. I stared at the message until my screen dimmed. Vanessa came in 10 minutes later, carrying a fresh bag of toiletries and a change of clothes, smiling like she'd been up praying all night. "I brought your razor," she said, "and your favorite socks. You always complain about the hospital ones." I didn't respond. She sat beside my bed and started talking about Jayla's school like she was reading a schedule. Then her phone rang. She answered without stepping out. "Mom," she said, and her voice softened instantly. "No, he's okay. He's resting." Then she began to cry. Not loud, controlled, just enough for anyone passing the doorway to hear. "I'm trying," she said. "I'm really trying to protect this family." Her eyes found mine while she spoke, and for a second the tears didn't match the look. That look said she wanted me to understand my options. I closed my eyes and let her perform. That afternoon, my attorney Daniel told me to meet him off-site. The nurses cleared it with the doctor as long as I didn't push myself. Vanessa offered to come. I declined. She argued. I kept it simple. "I need a quiet coffee," I said. "Not a discussion." She forced a smile that didn't reach her cheeks. Daniel chose a Starbucks a few blocks from the hospital, the kind packed with people who looked like they were avoiding their own homes. He didn't waste time with sympathy. He slid a folder across the table like we were back in a conference room. "You don't need to win with your mouth," he said. "You need evidence in the right order." "She's already moving," I said. "Good," he replied. "That means she'll make mistakes." He laid it out step by step. Hospital compliance, formal request for records, a letter to the board documenting coercion and fraud concerns, lock the joint accounts, change access to my email, file for a protective order if she escalated. No drama, just barriers. I watched his pen underline a section titled, "Emergency Motion to Freeze Power of Attorney." My stomach tightened again, not from fear this time, but from the weight of what it meant. This wasn't a fight between spouses. This was a threat to my name, my work, my daughter's safety. "If I do this," I said, "there's no going back." Daniel shrugged. "You haven't been going anywhere for a while," he said. "You've been standing still while they moved around you." Jayla's face flashed in my mind. 13 years old, trying to be brave in a house full of adults who treated her like background noise. I didn't speak anymore. I picked up the pen, signed one document, and handed it back. Daniel closed the folder and stood. "All right," he said. "Now we do this clean." We walked out together. I got into the car and headed back toward the hospital, my phone in my pocket, the unknown number still sitting on the screen, and a new set of limits forming in my head as traffic crawled along the freeway. Back in my room, I didn't talk much. Vanessa tried to keep the air light, like we were still a normal couple dealing with a normal scare. She brought magazines. She suggested a movie on her tablet. She asked if I wanted soup. I let her do it, not because I believed her, but because I needed her comfortable. People make fewer adjustments when they think you're still asleep. While she sat there tapping her screen, I worked with my mind the way I always had at the office. Break the problem down, create a timeline, secure the vulnerabilities, remove access points. Daniel's email came through late afternoon with a checklist. Short lines, no extra words. Accounts, insurance, beneficiaries, property, corporate access. I used the hospital iPad to log into a secure portal and started listing everything I'd built over 20 years. Mortgage, retirement, life insurance, stocks, the college fund for Jayla, a small savings account I'd never told anyone about, opened after my first wife died because grief taught me how fast people can change. Every time I completed a section, I emailed it back to Daniel with a simple subject line, confirmed. At the same time, I asked my company's IT director for an audit. We kept it clean on paper, routine security review due to medical leave. I didn't need him emotional, I needed him thorough. I wanted email logs, login history, forwarding rules, any access from devices that weren't mine. When Vanessa went to the restroom, I called Jayla from the hospital phone at the nurse station. Alicia stood nearby like she was guarding something fragile. "Dad?" Jayla answered, voice small. "Hey," I said. "You okay?" "I'm at Grandma's," she whispered. "Mom says I can't visit because you need quiet." I shut my eyes for a second. I could hear cartoons in the background and her trying to keep her voice low, like she was scared of being overheard. "Listen," I told her. "If you need me, you call Daniel. I'm going to send you his number." "Why?" she asked. "Just in case," I said. "And don't argue with anyone right now. Just stay smart." "I miss you," she said. "I'll be home soon," I replied, then hung up before my voice could change. Alicia handed me my medication report that evening, the kind with timestamps and initials. "Every dose," she said quietly. "Every shift." I flipped through it. Not because I understood every medical line, but because patterns show up when you look long enough. Daniel had an investigator pull the hallway footage. A day later, he texted me a still image from a camera outside my room. Vanessa at the door, her phone in her hand, her head turned toward the nurse station. Right after that timestamp, my IV bag had been changed. The pieces didn't prove everything yet, but they formed a shape. Then the signals started. A man stood in the parking garage one evening, hands in his hoodie pockets, looking up toward my window. When I turned my head, he didn't move. Alicia noticed too. She made a note and told security. By the time they came, he was gone. That night my phone rang once, unknown number. I answered and heard nothing. No breathing, no background noise, just silence stretched out long enough to make a point. The next morning, Vanessa walked in with a cup of coffee and asked, too casually, "So, what did they say about the sample?" My eyes lifted to hers. "What sample?" I asked. She blinked, then laughed like she'd misspoken. "The blood work," she said. "You know I worry." I nodded, slow. "Everything's fine," I told her. Vanessa smiled and sat down. She crossed her legs, sip after sip, like she was waiting for the next step. After she left, I asked to speak to the charge nurse. I didn't accuse anyone. I didn't tell a story. I made a request like I was ordering a service. "I want a new night nurse," I said. "And I want my IV bags documented and sealed before they're hung." The nurse looked surprised, then looked at Alicia, who didn't flinch. "We can do that," the charge nurse said. When evening came, Alicia brought in a sealed bag with the label facing outward and had me watch her hang it. "You're doing the right thing," she said. I didn't answer. I just watched her hands, steady and careful, and listened to the footsteps in the hallway like they meant something I couldn't ignore anymore. The bag Alicia hung earlier was still dripping steady when the night nurse came in to check my vitals. Different face than yesterday, different hands. That should have helped. I tried to sleep anyway. A few hours later, something shifted. It wasn't pain at first. It was pressure, like a belt tightening around my ribs. I took a breath and it stopped halfway. Another inhale came out shallow. My chest didn't expand the way it was supposed to. I pressed the call button. Nothing dramatic, just a small click. My heart started racing like it was trying to outrun the room. The monitor picked it up and began that sharp, impatient beep. I sat up, but the motion made everything worse. Air turned thin. My throat tightened. Alicia rushed in before anyone else, hair pulled back, eyes already focused. "Malcolm?" she said, moving straight to the IV line. I pointed at my chest, tried to speak. Only a broken sound came out. She didn't waste time on questions. Fingers clamped the tubing. The drip stopped. "Breathe with me," she said. "In, out." I tried. My lungs refused to cooperate. Panic edged in, but I held on to one thought. Stay awake. Stay awake long enough for her to see what she needed to see. Alicia grabbed the IV bag, lifted it, and stared at the label. Her jaw tightened. "This isn't the sealed one," she said under her breath. The night nurse stepped in behind her, confused. "It was hanging when I came on shift," she said. "I didn't change it." Alicia didn't argue. She pulled the bag off, sealed it in a clear evidence pouch she kept in her cart, and wrote something down with quick, hard strokes. Then she put oxygen on my face, adjusted the flow, and called respiratory. My hands shook against the blanket. Vision narrowed at the edges. I tried to hold on to the sound of Alicia's voice. "Stay with me," she said again. "Stay with me." Footsteps spilled into the room. A tech, a respiratory therapist, someone checking my pulse, someone asking my name like I might forget it. Then Vanessa appeared, hair messy, eyes wide. She stood in the doorway for half a second like she needed to calculate what she was walking into. "What happened?" she demanded, already moving toward me. Alicia stepped between us without raising her voice. "He's having trouble breathing," she said. "We're stabilizing him." Vanessa rushed to my side anyway, grabbed my hand, squeezed hard. Her face shifted into something softer, a performance she'd practiced. "Baby," she said, voice trembling. "Oh my God, I can't lose you." She reached into her bag and pulled out papers, already folded, already ready. "They need your consent," she said quickly. "Just sign this so they can treat you, please." My fingers were numb, my vision blurred. The pen she shoved into my hand felt heavy, like a dumbbell. The paper shook under my palm. I glanced down, forcing my eyes to focus through the haze. Consent for treatment. Then, smaller print near the bottom. Transfer of authority. It wasn't about care. It was about control, again, right on the edge of my breathing. Vanessa leaned close, tears forming on cue. "Do it," she whispered. "Don't make this harder." My chest seized. Another shallow breath. The room swayed. In that second, Jayla's face hit me harder than any lack of oxygen. Her curled up on the couch at Vanessa's mother's house, trying to sleep while adults decided her life. Her waking up tomorrow and being told her father passed peacefully. Her growing up with a story that wasn't true. No. I used what little strength I had and pushed the papers away. The pen rolled off the bed and clattered onto the tile. Vanessa's eyes flashed, fast and ugly, before she caught herself. "Malcolm," she hissed. "Stop." The door opened again. Daniel walked in with a badge clipped to his belt, followed by a hospital compliance officer in a suit that didn't belong in an ICU. A security guard hovered behind them. Daniel didn't look at Vanessa first. He looked at me, then at Alicia, then at the sealed evidence pouch on her cart. "We're documenting everything," Daniel said, calm as a Sunday morning. "No one signs anything tonight." Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. She turned toward the compliance officer, voice rising. "This is ridiculous," she said. "He's confused. He doesn't know what he's doing. This hospital." The compliance officer cut her off with a hand. "Ma'am, step outside," he said. "Now." Vanessa stared at them like she couldn't believe anyone was telling her no. Then she looked back at me, still holding my hand like she was devoted, her grip tight enough to hurt. I didn't pull away. I just let her feel that I was still here, still watching, still breathing, one careful breath at a time, while Alicia adjusted the oxygen, and Daniel spoke quietly to the compliance officer at the foot of my bed. They didn't let Vanessa back into my room after that. Security stayed nearby. Compliance took statements. A doctor spoke to me like I was a person again, not an object being managed. By morning, my breathing eased, but my body felt hollow. Daniel sat in the chair by the window with his laptop open. calm in a way that made the room feel steadier. "The lab flagged the IV contents," he said. "It wasn't what it was supposed to be." I stared at him, waiting for the part that would make it less real. "How bad?" I asked. Daniel exhaled slowly. "Enough to trigger a criminal investigation," he said. "They're calling it tampering. The hospital has to report it." I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel victory. A cold space opened in my chest, because fraud was one thing, paperwork was one thing. But this meant someone had been okay with me not waking up. Alicia came in later with a fresh set of documents and a tired look in her eyes. "They're interviewing staff," she told me. "They're pulling every medication record, every scan. They asked me to write a full incident report." "Thank you," I said. She gave a small nod. "Just keep doing what you're doing," she replied. "No shortcuts." That afternoon, Daniel stepped out to take a call. When he came back, his face didn't change, but his tone sharpened. "We have a witness," he said. "Who?" I asked. "Vanessa's assistant," he replied. "Her name is Tiana." I'd met Tiana twice, maybe 3 times. Quiet woman, always holding a tablet, always moving like she wasn't allowed to slow down. "They brought her in," Daniel continued. "Compliance and the investigator. She didn't last 10 minutes. My hands clenched on the blanket. "What did she say?" I asked. Daniel slid a printed statement across the tray table. "She admitted she signed your name on the power of attorney," he said. "She said Vanessa told her exactly what to do." I stared at the paper until the words blurred. Then I forced myself to keep reading. Tiana claimed she thought it was legal. She said Vanessa told her I'd already agreed. She said she was just following instructions. "And the notary?" I asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He tapped one line with his finger. "Tiana said someone else gave her the notary contact," he said. "Someone walked her through the process, told her what to say, where to go." My throat tightened. "Who?" I asked again. Daniel looked up. "Your brother," he said. For a second the room felt too small. My brother, Marcus, my father's other son, the one who always called me big man, the one who'd been asking questions lately about my shares, my benefits, how to protect your assets from taxes. I'd brushed it off as curiosity. I'd even offered to connect him with my financial planner. I swallowed hard. "You sure?" I asked, even though I already knew. Daniel turned his laptop toward me. An email chain, a text screenshot, Marcus's name at the top, plain as day. Vanessa still played her part outside the room. Daniel told me she cried to anyone who would listen, said she was scared of me, said I was unstable, said she'd been forced into handling things because I couldn't. Her voice could still stir sympathy in people who didn't know her. But I wasn't looking for sympathy anymore. I was looking for the shape of the truth. Marcus had debt, old gambling issues I'd helped him hide. Vanessa had access. Tiana had a pen. A notary had a stamp. A hospital had blind spots. All the pieces fit. I didn't call my brother. I didn't confront Vanessa. I didn't give them a warning. I leaned toward Daniel. "Set the board meeting," I said. "Downtown. Emergency." Daniel's eyebrows lifted slightly. "You're ready?" he asked. I nodded once. "Put everything in the light," I said. Daniel typed while I sat back, listening to the hallway noise, waiting for the next footsteps that would try to enter my life like they still had permission. Daniel met me outside the building in the energy corridor and handed me a visitor badge like I was new there. I'd worked in that complex for years, but walking in after the hospital felt different. My suit hung looser than it used to. My face looked sharper in the glass doors. Still, my steps stayed steady. The conference room was already full. Vanessa sat near the center with a lawyer I'd never seen before, a man in a bright tie and a confident smirk. Marcus stood against the wall, arms crossed, shaking his head like he was disappointed in me before I'd even spoken. A few board members watched me enter with that cautious look people use when they're afraid of a scandal touching their hands. Vanessa glanced up and forced a worried expression. "Malcolm," she said softly, "please don't do this." Marcus pushed off the wall and walked toward me. "Bro," he said, voice thick with concern. "You need help. You're spiraling." I didn't respond. I took my seat, opened a folder, and waited. Vanessa's lawyer stood. "We're here because my client is concerned for Mr. Reed's well-being," he began. "There have been episodes of confusion, instability, and unfortunate behavior. Unfortunate behavior. Like an affair, like a threat, like a man who couldn't be trusted with his own name. Vanessa slid papers across the table. "This is his written acknowledgement," she said. "He signed it before he got worse." Photos followed. The same bar shots, the same cropped angle. Different captions this time, edited to look like messages. Enough for doubt to spread. A board member cleared his throat. "Malcolm," he said, "did you sign these documents?" For a second, that old reflex rose up. Explain yourself. Defend yourself. Keep everyone comfortable. I didn't. Daniel stood and nodded toward the screen. "With the board's permission," he said, "we'll present verified records." I clicked the remote. The timeline filled the screen: hospital hallway footage, timestamps, shift logs, the notary stamp, the email access audit, the list of devices that had logged into my account. A still frame showed Vanessa outside my hospital room with her phone up. Another showed the IV bag change minutes later. Then the audio played. Her voice, clear and quiet. 3 days left, then everything will be mine. The room stopped breathing. Vanessa's face tightened. Marcus looked down at the floor like he'd suddenly found religion. Daniel turned to the board. "We're filing a civil suit today," he said. "We're requesting an emergency freeze of the power of attorney, all related transfers, and any joint accounts pending investigation. The hospital has already reported IV tampering. Law enforcement has been notified." Vanessa's lawyer started to speak, but the compliance report on the screen shut him down before his first sentence landed. Vanessa's lips parted. No sound came out. Her hands shook once, then she pressed them flat on the table like she could hold her life in place. Marcus took a step back, eyes darting, searching for an exit. No one shouted. No one celebrated. Papers moved. Phones lit up. The board chair asked for a recess in a voice that barely held. I stood, gathered my folder, and walked out without looking at Vanessa. In the hallway, I pulled my phone out and typed one message to Jayla. "I'm coming home." Then I slipped the phone back into my pocket and kept walking. Jayla opened the door before I could knock. She didn't run into my arms like she used to when she was little. At 13, she stood there stiff, trying to act grown, but her eyes gave her away. "Are you okay?" she asked. I took her backpack off the chair and set it on the table like it belonged in our house again. "I'm here," I said. "That's what matters." Vanessa's mother wasn't home. I didn't ask where she was. Jayla didn't offer. We moved through the kitchen in small motions, me rinsing a cup, her opening the fridge, both of us pretending the air wasn't heavy. My phone buzzed twice. Daniel. Freeze granted. Temporary restraining order approved. Detective assigned. A few minutes later, another message came in. Not Daniel, Vanessa. It was long. Too long. Lines of apology mixed with accusation. Tears wrapped around threats. The way she always talked when she wanted the last word. I didn't read it all. I didn't need to. That night, I called a locksmith. Not dramatic, just business. He came the next morning, replaced the locks, reprogrammed the garage code, and handed me 2 new keys. I gave one to Jayla and watched her tuck it into her wallet like it was something she'd earned. Daniel handled the legal side. He filed the civil suit, requested the asset freeze, and pushed the hospital report toward law enforcement. Vanessa was charged for forgery and fraud. The tampering investigation stayed open, separate and slower, because that's how real life works. No quick endings, just a steady grind. Her job let her go within a week, not because they cared about me, but because companies don't keep people who bring police questions to the front desk. She lost access to every account tied to my name. The court barred her from contacting Jayla directly until further notice. Marcus tried to call me the day the board meeting notes went public. I watched his name light up my screen and let it ring out. Daniel's follow-up was colder. Civil liability. Removal from any corporate benefits. Investigation for conspiracy. Marcus didn't have much to say after that. When your story collapses, silence shows up fast. A week later, I changed my life insurance beneficiary. Jayla, 100%. I opened a trust in her name with a portion of my assets and set it so no spouse, no relative, no emergency paperwork could touch it without a judge. That night, Jayla sat at the kitchen table doing homework. "Are we moving?" she asked without looking up. "Not today," I said. "We're just resetting things." She nodded like she understood more than she wanted to. On Saturday, I drove us to Galveston. No big speech, no fresh start talk. We grabbed takeout, sat on a bench by the seawall, and watched the water roll in and out like it had been doing long before my marriage fell apart. Jayla ate quietly. "Do you miss her?" she asked. I didn't rush an answer. "I miss what I thought we had," I said. She stared at the waves, then nodded once, like she was filing that away in her own head. My phone buzzed again. Vanessa, another message. "Please, Malcolm, just let me explain. I'll do anything. I'm sorry. I didn't mean..." I turned the phone face down on the bench between us. Jayla leaned her shoulder against my arm, light but sure. I stayed there with her, saying nothing, letting the wind do what words couldn't.